If you live in Nigeria, just go on Google right now and type how to be a, and the very first suggestion you get is Yahoo Boy. How did Nigeria go from being the giants of Africa, the most prosperous black nation in the world, the pride of the motherland, to being the den of thieves, the home of scam artists, and the palace of the infamous Nigerian prince? This is an inside look into the mind of Nigeria's most notorious conmen. To fully understand how we got to where we are today, we have to first look at the state of Nigeria. According to the World Bank, as of 2020, 47.3% of Nigerians live in multidimensional poverty. That is around 98 million people without proper access to clean and drinkable water, education, and healthcare. That's more than the entire population of the United Kingdom and Australia combined, fighting for a chance at life. And if all of that sounds terrible, well, I'm about to make it a whole lot worse. You see, multidimensional poverty refers to a person's access to basic amenities and their standard of living. If we instead use an income metric to determine what poverty is, which is around $3.20 per day according to the World Bank, then around 71% of Nigerians are poor. Just to give you a better perspective on this grim reality, let's compare this number with other developing countries that also produce oil. We have Brazil with 9.1%, Mexico with 6.5%, Ecuador with 9.7%, and Iran with 3.1%. Just look at the margin between Nigeria and these other countries. It's abysmal. And this is without statistics from Borno State, which is ravaged by the insurgency that makes it impossible to get any records. Using an exchange rate of around 560 naira, that's around 1,800 naira per day, which comes to around 54,000 naira per month. When you think about it, it makes sense. After all, the minimum wage in Nigeria is only 33,000 naira per month. If the prices of things were stable, then maybe 54,000 naira would have been enough. But every day the cost of food is going up, there's currently fuel scarcity, and living expenses in big cities like Abuja and Lagos seem to be fighting for who can be the most unbearable. It is absolutely ridiculous. In the face of such devastating poverty, the human mind only wants one thing: to find a way to survive. So picture this: a young boy of around 12 years born in one of the slums in Lagos, Nigeria. The first of 6 children, the pride of his parents. Then sadly, his father dies and his home is plunged into chaos. As everyone comes around to console his mother, they forget to console him and instead they tell him he's the man of the house now, and so he has to man up. So he mans up and he goes to the big brother down the street. You know the one. He just came back from Malaysia with a new Mercedes Benz. He just bought the house down the street and now houses every Tom, Dick and Harry who cares to hang around him. The young boy goes to the house to start running errands for this guy, let's call him Mr. A, to literally make his daily bread. You see, for most of us, daily bread is just a metaphor for a source of livelihood. But for people like this young boy, daily bread literally means the agege that he and his family will eat tonight. From running errands, this young boy starts to count the number of cars in the compound. He sees the gold jewelry, the large pieces of goat meat in Mr. A's soup, the exotic group of women that flaunt themselves around him. He watches Mr. A give him 50,000 naira to buy coke and 20,000 naira extra to buy biscuits. And soon, the change he's collecting is not enough. He can see more, and so he wants more. But he's conflicted. On the one hand, he grew up listening to his mother telling him that stealing was evil, that he shouldn't hang around with the wrong crowd because they could get him in trouble. But on the other hand, he's now grown up watching this same mother smiling at the money he's giving her without asking him the means it came through. And so the next time he goes to Mr. Hayes' house, just as he's about to leave, he pauses, looks at him and asks, "Bros, I beg, if you stop today, give me fish and teach me how to fish instead." With that last statement stretching out and feeling the silence in the air. Have you ever asked yourself why it seems like all the Yahoo boys act a certain way? They post the same WhatsApp stories, wear the same designer brands, listen to the same songs, and of course, when it's time to defend what they do, they have the same exact arguments. Now, we'll get into those arguments later on in the video, but for now, I just want you to think about why. Well, it's because there's an indoctrination process. The 16-year-old boy who tells Mr. A he can do anything isn't the 20-year-old boy who cashes his first check. Those 4 years in between include a rigorous indoctrination process, both directly and indirectly. Just watch your friend who you both just finished secondary school together. In the years that follow, watch how his speech changes, his WhatsApp stories, his quotes. It's so glaring that there's literally a genre of comedy on Twitter NG dedicated to sharing these quotes and their rather ridiculous nature. Now, I'm not even going to try to share them because they are all in Pidgin, and translating Pidgin is not the most straightforward thing in the world. So, forget about that. But after all these years of indoctrination, this person becomes immune to reason or logic. Most of them also feel like they've been a slave to this master for so long that they just can't quit now, not when they are this close to hitting it. And even if they thought about quitting, the way our society glorifies money would blind their eyes to the truth of their actions. I think because Nigeria is a comically poor country, and to do even the most basic things here, you need to have money, we as a society have become money obsessed. Every day on Twitter, people are arguing about who should pay for the first date, how much is too much money for a crèche, for food, for anything. We're literally always talking about money. And who can even blame us? In a country where more than half of its citizens are poor, heck, around 70% are poor, what else is there to talk about but money? However, the problem with this is that people in our community start to look up to money as a god. Instead of simply a tool to exchange value, money is an exalted thing that you have to ascend to meet with face to face. And so people start to try and make money by any means necessary. And it's worse for young boys because our society is still very, very patriarchal. I remember in secondary school, girls used to ask young guys to buy them lunch, which was always crazy to me, knowing fully well that we both probably got the same amounts from our parents. Sometimes the girls even got more because we should be men. Young men are thrown into the deep end at such an early age, expected to take care of not just themselves, but everyone around them, family, friends, and of course, girlfriends, wigs, designer bags, dates to the fanciest restaurants. You have to do it all. But where do you get those resources from? Most people simply do not care. The most ironic thing about our culture is that we are always talking about money, but at the same time, we are so averse to talking about how we made that money. Ask somebody how they made their money and you'd hear it's God's grace, without explaining the role they played in that grace. We attribute everything we can't or simply do not want to explain to God, and if you try to probe further, you are either labeled an amebo or they ask you whether you want to stop the source of their wealth. We always shroud money in some sort of mystery and exalt it like a god. You don't ask it questions, you don't challenge it, you simply bow at its feet as they walk by in reverence. It's really sad. Now, I'm not excusing any of these actions of these con men. I'm not in any way, shape, or form justifying what they do. I think that it is a crime that hurts a lot of vulnerable people all around the world, which is the one thing that really, really angers me. Remember earlier I mentioned the arguments they always use to defend themselves? Well, it goes something like this. So, the white man came and enslaved Africa, and now this is payback for them. And while the first half of that statement is true, yes, it's true that the white man is to be blamed for the majority of problems in Africa because we were living peacefully before they came, brought with them their own way of living, and forced us to conform. And to this day, they continue to extort and steal from us under the guise of helping out. But you see, unfortunately, those are not the people getting scammed by Yahoo boys daily. The people that are scammed are vulnerable people, usually also in similar financial situations, just looking for a way out of poverty themselves. These guys are also not the Robin Hoods that they think they are, because what do they spend their money on? iPhones, Mercedes, Balenciaga. In reality, you're the reverse Robin Hood. You're stealing from the vulnerable to fill the pockets of the rich. That's not hustle or work, that's stealing. And theft is not just a crime, it's morally unacceptable no matter the conditions you come from. There are thousands, heck millions of us who grew up in a similarly poor condition, who didn't try to cheat our way through life, who worked hard to grind to the top without stepping on anyone's heads along the way. And this brings me to my final point. The way the world sees Nigeria is utterly ridiculous. There are con men everywhere in the world, but the Western media continues to portray Nigeria as this scam country when in reality, Nigerians are the most prosperous immigrants all over the world. From Anthony Joshua to Giannis Adetokunbo, Nigerians have proven time and again that under the right conditions, we will always succeed. But yet, the world chooses to focus on the negatives to paint a picture of Nigeria and Nigerians. When AJ wins a fight, he's a British boxer. But when he loses, he's the Nigerian-born fighter. Every day, rich Americans look for ways to evade taxes. They make their products using cheap labor. They extort resources from these developing countries. But still, you call the people your large corporations are stealing from and maltreating the only evil. If you watch American media, you will think that every Nigeria is a scammer. But in reality, nothing could be farther from the truth. Nigeria has one of the most thriving tech communities in Africa, the best entrepreneurship system in the world, and the most thriving diaspora anywhere. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie once said, "Show a people as one thing and one thing alone, and that is what they become." If we want a change in our society, we need to start showing young boys an alternative, a way to break out of poverty without having to become a fraudster. And this is why I made this video right here, where I take you through step by step every single detail on how you can make tons of money in Nigeria even without going to a university. You definitely need to watch that next, and I'll see you there.